Good afternoon, college football fans, and welcome to episode 25 of Sports Talk with Brags. As with the music in the background, that means one thing. We're talking Hokie football today, and today's guest, we have Coach Frank Beamer on with us. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, sure, no problem. Appreciate your time. So let's get started. I see that you went to Virginia Tech and you played yourself. So talk about being a Hokie football player, student athlete yourself.
Well, Virginia Tech is always a school I wanted to go to. I had an uncle that went to school here, and he brought me over to the old Miles Stadium to see Bob Swiker and Sonny Utz play and a bunch of those guys. So I always wanted to play, and I coming out of high school, I was a quarterback, and and had several touchdown passes my junior senior year. Tommy Thompson, who was our coach, went up to see the Baltimore Colts, got a little passing game. We brought it back to Southwest Virginia. Everyone was running the ball, so no one knew really how to defend passes. So we ended up getting a lot of cheap touchdowns, and we were doing something that no one else was doing. Today, people say, well, the single wing. Well, throwing the football back then was kind of like running the single wing today. So we did that. And at that time, Tech didn't have a limit on the number of scholarships. They were independent, and I came in here with about 8 quarterbacks, and I think there was 60 some guys altogether they brought in. So the first day here, they moved me to defensive back. And I said, wait a minute, did you see all those touchdown passes I threw back in high school? They didn't seem to care. And so anyhow, I moved to defensive back, and I went from number 14, which was my quarterback number, to 25, which was my defensive back number. So that's the story behind that.
Right, and then let's see, and then you went to Radford High School to do some coaching, and then got into college football coaching with an assistant at Maryland, and then Citadel, and then an assistant at Murray State before you got your first head coaching job at Murray State, and that's where you also met your longtime assistant Bud Foster.
Yeah, Bud was outside linebacker back then, and not great skill, but just as you would suspect, really understood the game, and was about 2 plays ahead of everybody out there playing, and same way he coached. I mean, he had that great football mind back playing, and that's why he played in front of some other guys that were probably more gifted than he was, but he understood the game.
Right. Yes. And then after the '86 season, you got an opportunity to come back home and lead the Hokie football program.
Yeah, it was so unusual. Dux Bachman, who had just become the athletic director, interviewed me in Nashville, actually at a motel down there, and I never forget. And Cheryl went down with me. She didn't sit in on the interview, but she went down with me and was in the room there, and we interviewed in the afternoon, and we took a break for dinner, and I never forget going back to the room and telling Cheryl, "Hey, I think I'm going to get this job." And it was, and I didn't know Dutch Bachman. We'd never met before, but we just hit it off. And the next morning he did offer me the job, and it didn't take me long to accept it.
Right. Well, that's good. And so when you came to Blacksburg, you guys were still an independent, and then you went to the Big East there in '91. So talk to us on how Virginia Tech football went from an independent to their first conference there with the Big East?
Well, we all love the Big East. A lot of things. If you're a Virginia Tech fan, you need to thank the Big East because, I hate to think what would happen with us trying to make it out there as an independent. You got into the place, Big East uh, got you on TV, got you to a bowl game. Both of those things are really important as you're trying to build a program. And with the Big East, we got access to those things, and a great conference, great leadership, great conference. And then from there, the ACC came along, and I've always thought I grew up right across. I grew up in Virginia, but right across the North Carolina line, and so I watched ACC football and basketball all my life. And I always thought that's where Virginia Tech belongs, is in the ACC academically, from a location standpoint. And sure enough, we got into the ACC, and I think that was probably the greatest day in Virginia Tech's history, is the day we got into the ACC. We're always going to be thankful to the Big East, but the ACC is kind of where I felt like Virginia Tech belonged.
Right. Yes. And when you were a member of the Big East, the bowl streak started there in '93, and the first major bowl that you guys were a part of was the Sugar Bowl there in '95, and then where Virginia Tech just had an awesome season there in the '99 season and represent the Big East there in the national championship game against a future ACC rival in Florida State.
Yeah, yeah. I think the '95 game was important. Going to the Sugar Bowl and beating Texas, a national brand. I think the next day people thought about Virginia Tech differently after that happened. And then, of course, a few years later, going and playing in the national championship, and Michael Vick's great game. And I, uh, I had to go, I think, to the national convention. I went from New Orleans to the national convention, and that's all they were talking about at the national convention is, did you see that guy, Michael Vick, on TV last night? And so, that's it was a good ride. Watching Virginia Tech go from a certain level to, I thought, a national level, where people knew maybe a little bit about Virginia Tech, but then they knew a lot about Virginia Tech. Uh, and watching, and as we played in that national championship game, they told me the enrollment, the applications for enrollment, I think doubled here at Virginia Tech. And so, it was a great growth in our program and our school. Uh, Everything about Virginia Tech got bigger and better during that time.
Right. Yes. And with going over to the ACC starting in 2004, I think the first year that you guys were a part of the ACC, you guys won, but there wasn't a conference championship game yet. But then the next year or a few years later, the ACC started their own conference championship game, and my brother-in-law and I went down to Jacksonville there, and Antonio Freeman and Bruce
Yeah.
Smith. I mean, a lot of former Hokies were down there, and just with being part of the ACC and having the conference championship. I mean, the ACC has certainly done a good job on promoting that conference championship game at the end of the regular season.
No question. Being a part of that. And then if you win it, represent the ACC. I mean, it was fantastic days there for Virginia Tech.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I think now it's in Charlotte, but it's definitely been in certain places. But also with Virginia Tech football there in 2000, it started being a national TV program there with Labor Day weekend being a focus on college football and NFL starting the second weekend in September. I mean, there's been neutral field games of Virginia Tech and USC and Virginia Tech and Boise State, and you guys even opened up the season down at the Georgia Dome. I mean, it's just amazing on here Virginia Tech how they've been on national TV here to start off a season.
Yeah, a lot of coaches didn't want to play in those games, didn't want the rhythm of their week disrupted. But I always felt like anytime you were the only game on, and everyone in the country that was a college fan was probably watching that game, then if you're trying to grow a program and trying to get an audience that knows about Virginia Tech and wants to even pull for Virginia Tech, then you need to play those games. And it never really bothered us. We always, as we build up to it, we kept our week. We may be playing on Thursday, but that was a Saturday game to us, and the day before was Friday, and we kept our week intact. So the rhythm to the kids, they knew where they were as far as preparation for the game. This is Tuesday of our week for a Saturday game, and so when we did that, it never bothered me. I always welcomed the opportunity to gain more fans pulling for Virginia Tech.
Right. Yes, and while you led Virginia Tech, I know that Bud Foster on the defensive side had the lunch pail defense, but I know that a phrase while you led Virginia Tech football was, time to play Beamer ball, there with, getting the momentum here with a defensive, with a pick six or a special teams play. Explain a little bit about that phrase.
Yeah, it was interesting. I came up as a defensive coach, starting out with Bobby Ross at the Citadel and Mike Godfrey at Murray State. And then when I got to be a head coach, I studied offense. I went to see Jimmy Laycock at William Murray, who's a great friend, and studied offense and actually called plays there at Murray State. And so I've been on defense, I've been on the offense. Then when I got to Virginia Tech, the job was just bigger than the jobs, our job at Murray State that I had. So I said, well, wait a minute, I've got good people. I need to turn the offense over to my offensive coordinator and turn my defense over to my defensive coordinator. And I'm going to get involved with the special teams. Because with special teams, you got offensive guys and defensive guys. It kind of keeps you involved with the players, with your team. And then I was always scheming. I would have a different return every week and have a different way to block a kick every week. And so it kept me busy with that. And then I really got to where we enjoyed it and started blocking a few kicks and returning a few kicks. And then the name Beamer Ball. Whichever team was on the field, whether it was offense, defense, special teams, we had a chance to score with that team. So I kind of like that, to be honest with you.
Right. Yes. And let's see. So after your time at Virginia Tech, I know that the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame called you, and you got inducted in that Hall of Fame, and also down in Atlanta, the College Football Hall of Fame gave you a call. So talk about those two. One a state Hall of Fame, and then the other one relating to college football.
Yeah, just so honored and so blessed. A guy from Fancy Gap, Virginia, a little town about as big as this room I'm sitting in here right now, and come to Virginia Tech and was able to play, and that wasn't always a given that I'll be able to play here, and then to come back and coach here, it's just all worked out so well. Be able to stay 29 years in a place I love, uh, and then to be go into the Hall of Fame. It's just I've been blessed, and I realize how lucky I've been.
Right.
Had a lot of
Yes.
good people with me, though. Had a lot of good players and some great coaches, and you got to have that to have success that we had.
Right. Well, I know with my brother and I being Western Branch alum, and with growing up in a military family, my sister didn't get to graduate from Western Branch, but one of her junior high classmates, Sharon Stith and
Oh
Lorenzo
yeah,
Ferguson, came
yeah.
to play for you, and then my brother's high school classmate Jeff Holland,
Oh
he
yeah.
when he graduated from Western Branch in '91, he came to play at Virginia Tech. But right here in the South Side, I mean, you guys had a lot of great talent come from Western Branch, Steep Creek, Virginia Beach, Norfolk schools. I mean, Cam Chancellor and Ron Yell Whitaker. I mean, talk about
Yeah.
the recruiting here in the 757.
And a couple more guys there, Vince Hall and Keith
Yeah,
Burnell.
right.
We had a run of great players. I was always concerned that Tech was at one end of the state, and Virginia, or the best players or the best football in the state was 757 was at the other end, and then you had to pass that other university in the state on the way to Blacksburg. And but we had a great run down there, and we recruited that area hard. I mean, uh, we knew where we needed to get players from there in
Right.
Richmond and Northern Virginia, and thank goodness we got our share from there, and had just some great players, great kids, great players that came from that area.
Right. And you don't pass that other university when you go 460.
Yeah, there you go.
But and Coach Beamer, just kind of share with us. I mean, your jersey was number 25, and once you stepped away from being the head coach, I mean, Virginia Tech, they certainly have 25. I see that the Hokie Club does a drive for 25 and 25 Beamer Way, and I appreciate John Boleyn setting this up with this being episode 25. Just talk about how your number still stands here today.
Well, I didn't want 25. I wanted 14.
Right.
My quarterback number in high school. Uh, but no, I got to defensive back, and I'm so proud of everything that's been associated with that, and it's quite an honor, to be honest with you, that all the different things that has happened that we've related to 25. I'm very proud and very honored to have those things.
Yes, and I know that the excitement at Lane Stadium. I mean, nothing against a Saturday afternoon game at noon or 3:30, but definitely when it's been a Thursday night game at Lane Stadium, a Saturday night, or even a Labor Day Monday night there in the first weekend. Definitely when the lights are on, definitely an exciting atmosphere there at Lane.
Oh, absolutely. One of the greatest in college football. And, I always said we're always in this thing together. And I never thought there's a better example of all of us being in this thing together than when we took the field, Enter Sandman was playing, all the fans, alumni, band, Heidi Tidies, everybody's jumping. I said, now that's a group that we're all in this together. And I think that I think our fans understood that they were very much a part of it. They helped us win, and they knew when to be loud. They knew when to be quiet. They knew, how to be a good fan. And I credit our fans with a lot of the success we've had here because they just were the best fans in the country.
Right.
by far.
Right. Yes, and and as we wrap up, I mean, I know that you like to see players go on to the next level there after college, but also, I mean, looking at coaching staffs there at the pro level and even at the college level, you know, you got some Hokie alums, especially leading the Gamecocks there with the head coach and the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and without question, I'm proud of Shane and Torian Gray's down there with him now, and uh, they got their hands full, but they've got a great plan. I think Shane's put together a great coaching staff, and so I'm eager to get down there, and I'm going to split my time between Virginia Tech football and Gamecock football this fall.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Coach Beamer, I see that. So here we talked about Virginia Tech opening up the season there in early 2000s with USC, and then Boise State, and then some games down at the Georgia Dome. But this year, I mean, it starts off Labor Day weekend, but boom, ACC conference game hosting UNC. So as we talked about national powerhouse and neutral fields there in the earlier 2000s, you know, this year the Hokie team starts off Labor Day weekend under the lights against a ACC opponent.
Yeah, you know, you like to have a couple of warm-up games and try to find out where your team is and how many each player should be playing and kind of get all those things. But you don't have that. I mean, it's right off the bat, it's under the gun. But both teams are playing the same way. I mean, it's affecting both teams the same. So you know that I'm sure both teams are going to be ready to play and play as well as they can at that point.
Right, and with what's gone on here the last 15 months, it will be nice here for the fall 21 season to start on time and get those Hokie fans jumping there in Lane Stadium.
You got it. That's what I'm looking forward to.
So, any other final thoughts here about your time at Virginia Tech here as we wrap up?
Well, I just so grateful that I got to, as I said earlier, spend 29 years of my life at a place I love. Uh, I don't think in this time people will stay 29 years in one place. I don't know if it'll ever happen again. But I know how fortunate I was, and I'll always do whatever I can to help Virginia Tech be better. Anytime they ask me to go help with raising money or whatever, if I can, I'm going to do it because Virginia Tech has meant so much to me and my family. My daughter graduated here, my son graduated here, my son-in-law graduated from Tech. So you know, it's been a great school for us, and it's always going to have a special place in my heart.
Right. Yeah, Coach Beamer, certainly appreciate your time. I know I've met you when you came to speak at Portsmouth Sports Club Jamboree, and Vint Hall, who was a few years after me at Western Branch, he was recognized, but certainly enjoyed meeting you that day, and as you signed football there for my brother-in-law who retired from the Norfolk Fire Department, just appreciated your time with listening to you and rooting your teams on.
Hey, thank you so much. It's been great being with you. Enjoyed it.
Sure. All right, everybody. So, hey, that's a wrap up here for episode 25, and we had Coach Beamer, and go Hokies.
You